Well, returning now to the crisis in Myanmar, the military took control in 1962 and has ruled the country with an iron grip ever since. Tim Lister tells us how Myanmar, also known as Burma, got to this point.
In the victorious Battle of Burma.
In the Second World War, the British and Japanese fought a merciless campaign for control of Burma, keenly aware of its strategic location and natural riches. When the guns fell silent, Japan was defeated, Britain exhausted. Burma gained independence almost without a fight. But it also had no working institutions and an ethnic insurgency that would go on for decades to deal with. The army stepped into the breach, quickly growing to a force of more than 200,000 men, and has been there ever since. 1962 was the watershed when a candidate the generals didn't like won elections. General Ne Win mounted a coup. He ruled Burma for a quarter century, launching what he called the Burmese way of socialism. It was ruinous, a bizarre mixture of nationalization and astrology. While Asian tigers like Thailand and South Korea roared, Burma stagnated, spending as much as 40% of its income on a huge standing army. Because he thought 9 was a lucky number, Ne Win abolished the currency overnight, replacing it with banknotes that could be divided by 9. And like Idi Amin in Uganda, he also expelled thousands of ethnic Indians, despite their vital economic role. Ne Win occasionally dabbled with democratic change, but never let it flower. Just before the democracy protests in 1988, he warned, if the army shoots, it hits. There's no firing in the air to scare. He was followed by a junta even more secretive and hardline, one of its first moves to change the country's name from Burma to Myanmar with the Adaptation of Expression Law. Since 1992, Than Shwe has emerged as the senior general in the junta. Occasionally, the regime has allowed Aung San Suu Kyi, the beacon of the pro-democracy movement, to travel in the country, but for 12 of the last 18 years, it's kept her under house arrest. Observers say Than Shwe and 2 other senior generals make all the major decisions, such as suddenly moving the country's capital from Yangon to a remote northern town, giving civil servants hours to pack and move. The most flagrant sign of the regime's remoteness from its poverty-stricken citizens was the lavish wedding for Than Shwe's daughter last year. Videos of the wedding posted on YouTube enraged democracy activists at home and overseas. Some observers estimate that the wedding gifts were worth $20 million. If history is any guide, Than Shwe and his fellow generals won't see dialogue as a way out of this crisis. They see the military, now estimated at 400,000 strong, as the only guarantee against anarchy. Tim Lister, CNN, Atlanta.
Notice how we haven't seen Than Shwe or any other of Burma's leaders over the past few days? The general's trying to keep control from behind the scenes through all of this. Now, one of the amazing aspects of events in Myanmar as they've been unfolding is just how information has been getting out of that isolated country. Ordinary people, armed with still cameras and video cameras and cell phones, have been capturing the chaotic and increasingly deadly situation.
In the beginning, it was just a peaceful protest in Yangon, and Benjamin Volk was just a tourist. But equipped with a video camera, he instantly became an eyewitness in a country that doesn't normally let the outside world watch.
I looked around, and there was nothing that would prevent me from filming or feeling threatened or anything like that. I thought that maybe I had recorded something that people would really want to see, so I sent it to CNN.
And throughout our coverage this week, a global force of individual online activists also turned to iReport. Together, they achieved something that was essentially impossible before, showing the world what's happening inside Myanmar. CNN correspondent Dan Rivers has been inside the country. He knows just how important their work has been.
The information and the pictures and the photos we're getting from iReport is crucial because it's telling the world what's going on. They are the world's eyes and ears in this sort of situation because we as journalists can't fulfill our role properly because we're banned by the authorities from going in.
And it seemed the more force the military junta used, the more photos came in from pro-democracy groups outside the country. A few members explained how they were able to work. They asked to remain anonymous.
A friend of mine actually emailed to me, so they took some pictures, and I went to the CNN website, iReport, and then from there I just uploaded all the pictures.
I got this directly from my friend. He sent to my email.
But the military junta maintains tight control over the internet and blocks access to web-based email. So just how are the people in Myanmar getting their images out?
They can access to this internet site. They can access directly. So they have to use some kind of proxy to pass this the filter from the government side.
A proxy server, a computer application that allows people to surf the web anonymously, even inside Myanmar.
Nowadays, we have our own media. The youngsters, like my nephew Thomas and his friends inside, are very active.
When the government used brutal force to put down a democratic uprising in 1988, few people saw it. Technology and courage mean that can't happen again.
The regime knows all too well that these pictures are getting out to the outside world, that President Bush and other world leaders are seeing it, are condemning it, are reacting by putting more sanctions in place. So the time lag is a lot less than it was in 1988.
For the first time in Myanmar, the world watches in real time.
And it's time now to hear what you have to say as the crackdown in Myanmar continues.
You know, you have been writing in, you've expressed a lot of different thoughts on the protests. So let's take a look at a few of them right now. Elo from Nigeria says, how many people need to die before we know it's time to act? It seems like the world just sits down and waits for genocide to happen, and afterwards we cry and organize conferences.
Justin from Myanmar says, Burma is now under attack by the military government. I think the USA and UN should take action on the Burmese military regime.
And Haruma in Tanzania says it is time for the UN Security Council to act against those regimes before we experience another Myanmar somewhere else. In East Africa, already we have experienced that.
The protest movement has been moving through the internet. Send us your thoughts by internet. Send us emails. We'll read your responses on air. The address is yourviews@cnn.com.